Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to our Executive at Work interview series. By way of introduction, I am Lisa Kelly, President and founder of the Workplace Wellness Center of Excellence and Director of our Workplace Wellness Leadership Certification Programs and our soon-to-be launched Executive Wellness Leadership Program. So joining me today is Dr. James Petersen of Stress Master International, and I might add, a very valuable strategic partner to our certification programs. So welcome, James. It's so great to have you join us.
Well, welcome, Lisa. It's a great time to be here. Great to see you, and I'm very happy to participate in your program.
Oh, thank you. So let's kick off our interview by having you introduce yourself to our viewers and perhaps share a little bit about Stress Master International and its involvement in corporate wellness, and how you even support our certified ambassadors who have graduated from our programs.
Happy to do so. I'm a psychologist by background, trained in clinical and developmental psychology way back when, and my specialty was working with people that had physical disabilities that were stress related in some way, one way or another. And I founded a organization called the Biofeedback and Stress Management Clinic, where we actually treated individuals with psychosomatic problems, most of which were stress related. So I got involved in the area of stress management way back when, and began to realize that not much was being done to really help people in the corporate world in the area of stress and stress management. I coined the term stress mastery about 1982 because I wanted to communicate to people that not only should we manage stress, which means to keep stress under control and bring it down, but we need to prevent stress from reoccurring or minimize the impact of stress on our bodies, our minds, our performance. So I felt the term stress mastery was appropriate, and at that point created a company called Stress Master International.
Right.
During part of this development time, I created a tool which is called the Stress Mastery Questionnaire. Mm-hmm. This tool is designed to help people become aware of the stress in their bodies,
right,
their minds, their health, their behaviors, their emotions, their relationship with others. Because unless we're aware of our stress, we really can't do much about it.
Absolutely.
So the SMQ, or Stress Mastery Questionnaire, became the hallmark of our program. And since then, we brought it forward to corporate America. It's been translated into 7 languages.
Oh, really?
16 countries.
Wow.
And to Lisa's point, very happy to work with her ambassadors who have become associates of ours also.
Yeah, many
so
have become associates. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, they have, and thanks to you and the encouragement to help integrate the concept of stress into wellness.
Right.
Not that it hasn't been there, it has, but we really want to, and my goal is to help people who are in the wellness community begin to realize that wellness is related to stress. In fact, a good example is I was talking to a friend of mine who was a senior executive at United Healthcare, and she was responsible for over 200 wellness individuals who would go into companies and organizations and provide services. And she said to me, and wrote me a little email, she said, "Jim, stress and the lack of stress management programs for employees is the greatest source of unwellness in this country." Pretty amazing, because it really brought to the point that she recognized, and companies are now beginning to recognize, that if you want a well-functioning person, and we're going to talk about executives today, if you want a well-functioning executive, wellness, stress mastery are all integrated and need to be addressed.
Yes, for sure.
So that's why I got involved in the field of stress management, took it to Stress Mastery, and now we're happy to be working with hundreds of companies and organizations around the world.
Wonderful. So thank you for that. So today, as you know, we're going to be discussing executive wellness in particular, and particularly how stress impacts executives' ability to function in their job and what it means to be a healthy leader. And then we're going to look at stress mastery skills that executives might embrace to optimize their personal wellness, their productivity, and enhance their leadership of their employees. So on that note, so let's begin, James, by examining why executive wellness is so important today. And, as a stress mastery expert, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, that's a really good question because we're seeing a explosion of wellness programs in the country today. And executives are a unique group of individuals who experience stress in ways that are a little bit different than the average manager or supervisor or employee. And my experience working in companies and organizations at the highest level is that we need to identify and help them identify the sources of their stress so that they can begin to be better performing executives and managers and be healthy and well. Because as we'll talk a little bit later, wellness impacts all aspects of an executive's life, home, and work. First thing we noticed is that executives are under pressure from both the top and the bottom. In other words, they're in a position where they are required to make the organization work and function effectively and produce results. So they are responsible up the ladder because there are people above him and also her, and there are people that he has to motivate or she has to motivate to do the job well and do it at a high level of accuracy, performance, creativity. When an individual is not well, is stressed, their performance is dramatically impacted. It affects them, it affects their employees, their team, their staff. The second thing we know is the demands that come from above, if you will, to produce and to make sure that the bottom line is as robust as possible is enormous. And a lot of the executives that I've talked to don't share that with very many people. In fact, they're relatively isolated individuals. It's even hard for them to share their stress or if they're not feeling well with other people for fear that it will have repercussions on them. So being an executive and being well is essential to the job and to performance and to health in general. So those two things alone are important, but there are other factors. We know that there's a high level of burnout amongst executives today. In fact, we just found out that the World Health Organization has now created a category, a diagnostic category called burnout, because it is so prevalent. Over 60% of executives that we've talked to had said to me and to my team, we're stressed and we don't know what to do about it. So we understand that their stress is there. They can't not easily reveal it, and so it affects their performance. And as a result, we often see a high level of turnover. And that turnover is costly. A good example, I worked with one of the top 3 accounting firms in the world. We created a stress management program for them several years ago, primarily for their managers, who were the managers within a accounting firm are under just enormous pressure from clients as well as from the organization itself. And during the course of the program, which I had 60 senior level accounting executives, and I asked them, I said, look, let's take a few minutes. Let's calculate what is the cost of a person who leaves, a manager who leaves because of stress. I said, you got 15 minutes. You're accountants. You know how to look at numbers. Go to work. So they went to work. It was really a kick because they got really into it. They'd actually spend more than half an hour. So during the course of that time, they identified all the factors that they could identify, from training costs, from client, the loss of clients and how that impacts their clients. And they put a number on that. And the number they came up with on average was $500,000, $500,000. And I said, wouldn't it be better to put a little bit of money into helping those individuals deal with the stress themselves and begin to change the organization so that the stressors coming down to the individual are more manageable. And they all agreed, and as a result, changes were made. So the point is that executives are a unique group, and my goal is to help them personally deal with it. But we also got to remember we've got to change the company and the culture so that it also is balanced.
Very
Hope that
nice.
answered your question.
You did, and I'm so glad you you ended on the note of culture, because that's so important, and it's sort of the buzzword today of the new millennial buzzword, if you will. But even in tech firms now, they're not calling themselves HR managers but culture managers. So but it's one thing to
Yeah.
say the word culture, right? Is another thing to really optimize and enhance and develop and cultivate the culture to the end that we want it to be.
Right.
Yeah. So on that note, then my second question for you is, how does, and you may have answered it, so you can certainly expand on that answer, is how do you feel that stress impacts an executive's ability to lead and function in the workplace? So is there anything else you might like to add to your first answer?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot that could be addressed here. I think that it's kind of hard to kind of parse it out, but let's take it this way. An executive's under stress and is not doing well and is not feeling well, number one, affects his leadership ability. We see a dramatic drop off in the ability to motivate others, to work collaboratively with teams, to share information effectively. So the ability to be a leader is impacted, and that impacts the organization. Part of that is delegation. I've worked with some individuals who, when they're under stress, they stop delegating. They should be doing the reverse, but they become perfectionistic in their way of looking at it. They think they've got to do it themselves. Maybe they feel that some of their people aren't doing their job as well as they could, so they don't train them. They wind up doing it themselves. So the lack of delegation and training is impacted. They become more task-oriented. Not that you shouldn't be task-oriented, but a good executive balances focusing on a task and focusing on people. And if you look at charts of individuals, if you take it on just a basic chart, task on one dimension, people on the other, the best place to be is right in the middle. But there are executives who are, you want to say, they're nitpickers. And they become very fearful because they don't trust their staff or their employees. And so they begin to, and they now are focused on task, or they reverse it and they just come down on everybody, and all it is task. And there's no people involved. There's no humanity involved.
And I think we can have that habit, and largely probably due to stress, whether we recognize it or not, we can fall into that role of being a bit of a micromanager, right?
Absolutely. And so when you're under stress, behaviors change. So those are some of the things, but there are really others. Judgment is impacted. We know that stress is related to anxiety. The more anxiety you have, the poorer the performance and the poorer the judgment. So errors are made. Errors are made with people, made with the jobs that they're doing, which really relates to decision making. So if you can't make good judgments, you can't make good decisions. The whole idea in stress mastery is to balance things off and create optimal stress so that there's not too much and there's not too little. Everybody knows the bell-shaped curve. The higher the stress, the poorer the performance, the lower the stress, the poorer the performance. So what we try to do is help them find ways to balance the stress within themselves and their team so that everybody's working together harmoniously.
It
And
reminds
there's a lot of other factors too.
It reminds me, years ago, I think it was part of my public speaking training or what have you with respect to stress. And we always said, try and ensure that your butterflies are flying in formation, right?
Right, exactly.
Keeping that stress intact.
That's a good one. I like that.
And that you do need that certain bit of stress to have that adrenaline to get the job done, right?
Absolutely. And let's make the point that we all know is
passes exceeds that threshold, then that's where everything sort of implodes on us, right?
Absolutely. And let's just make that point that stress is not all bad.
No, absolutely.
You have to have it.
We needed to run from that saber-toothed tiger, right?
Yeah. Well, the tiger now are deadlines and people
Yeah.
who are obnoxious and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Great answer. So let's move on to our third question then. So, really turning it around now and heading in a real positive direction, giving our viewers some real tangible skills and
Mhm.
something that they can walk away with here. So what, in your opinion, defines a healthy leader? And
Okay.
what impacts can a healthy or unhealthy leader have on employee and organizational well-being? So again,
Well, let's just start with health. A healthy leader leads a healthy life,
mm-hmm.
which means less alcohol and drug abuse, better food, better nutrition, taking care of the essential ingredients of what makes a body function well. And we know that the body tries to always bring itself back to balance, which is called homeostasis. And so the more you can do to keep care of the body,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to take care of the mind
Yeah.
and how we perceive the world. And one of the biggest challenges in stress mastery is changing and taking control of how we think and perceive a given stressor or problem. If we don't take control of that, and if we've learned bad habits of thinking and blaming others and overgeneralizing and basically doing irrational thinking, if we've learned that pattern, which many people do,
Mm-hmm.
that's got to stop. Because once you stop going on a path of irrational thinking or looking at somebody in a categorical term like these people are all bad, these guys can't do their job, this group can't handle that. If you're overgeneralizing and that's an error in thinking, those things have got to change.
Mm-hmm.
So those are stress triggers.
And
Another thing,
can
oh,
I
go
just
ahead.
jump in there? Sorry. On the notice stress triggers, I speak a lot about sleep, and I'm sure you do. And I'd love to know what you found in the years of doing the SMQs. Like, where does sleep come into play in terms of the the results and outcomes of the SMQ in working with clients? And anything you want to speak to that? Because we talk a lot about sleep today, but I really still feel that we're not getting it, in terms of just how
Right,
powerful
right,
sleep is to mastering our stress, right?
right.
And
Well,
good sleep,
yeah,
good quality sleep, right?
I agree. And I think the basics of good sleep are all fundamental, eating not too late, drinking not too much, and so forth. But when you're not sleeping well and you're machinating over things in your mind called worry, back to what can we do to change how we think about something. So while a person's laying there in his mind or her mind, you're going over the day's problems, future fears, you're creating anxiety. So the key for me and what I've learned working with people, the SMQ doesn't directly address the issue of sleep, but sleep always comes up as an area for concern. And there are physical things that affect sleep, but there's also mental things. And the mental things are perceptions and thoughts. If you're living in the past, you can't change it, but we live there. People spend a lot of time thinking about regrets, mistakes that they've made, problems they've had with people, and they're also worried about the future. They're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, or maybe they've got a presentation to make and they're not ready for it. They're living in the future. It hasn't even happened yet, but they're already there. So we then talk about bringing oneself back to the moment. And everybody today calls it mindfulness. It's been around for centuries. We know that you need to stay focused on what you're doing right now and then change your thoughts. And then we go through a whole program of how do you do that so that you get a good night's sleep. And the more you practice it, the better it gets.
Yeah, and I just want to add there too. That's great. Thank you for that. And let's see if I can get this quote. This helps me a lot, especially because I tend to ruminate at night, right? And think about, I live like yourself, I live as an entrepreneur and business person. I live
Mhm.
a very business life, as do most executives, of course, right? And I
Right.
always like, and one of our ambassadors brought it up in our training program, and I've heard it before, but she reminded me of it. And it's that yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery. But
Mhm.
today is a gift to us called the present. And we can really, when we really stay mindful
Awesome.
to that, right?
Mhm.
then I find that, it brings us to the here and now. And all we can, as you know, in mindfulness, the key tenet is that all we can do is control the here and now, right? So,
A couple other things I wanted to say about being a healthy
absolutely.
leader. Not only do you take care of your mind, your body, but you take a good leader, a healthy leader takes care of his people or her people.
Mm.
So if you're a good leader, you are concerned about and you work with and you identify problems and you help them solve those problems. All these issues of people who do really bad things like going postal and killing somebody, which is rare, but that does happen. But there's much more in between where managers and executives don't realize that they're not really helping their people. They see it come back to them in negative ways. So the more you can help your staff, your human capital, which I don't like the term human capital, but everybody uses it today. If the more you take care of those people, the better it will be. And the fourth thing I want to say is family and relationships. Many executives pay a huge price on the family side. They live 24/7 in their job. The pressure is on them. And when they come home, they often go into aggression, or they go into alcohol, or they just simply go into a vegetative state, and they don't tend to their relationships. And that comes back to the job as well. So it's a vicious cycle. With developing a program for correction officers, the problem with correction officers, which is not unusual, like even with lawyers, but when they get off work, well, first of all, correction officers are in a state of hypervigilance. So think about somebody who 24/7 have a gun pointed at your head. Not that they do, but they live at a high level of anxiety. But when they walk out the door, that anxiety begins to plummet. And what do? They go to the bar. It's a huge problem. And they use alcohol to bring that down. And by the time they get home, now the family life is disrupted because they really didn't do what they needed to do, go to the gym, work out, or do some deep relaxation, do some Tai Chi, do some meditation. So we talk about alternative ways in which to respond to whatever work environment you're under. And everybody has a work environment that can be very stressful. Not everybody, but a lot of people do.
Move into the next question then of how executives can really build better stress mastery skills, and
Okay.
some of which you've already addressed, but what else could you speak to that?
Well, again, a good question because it's what I've been focusing on most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
The first step and the first thing is important, and that's why the stress mastery questionnaire is you need to become aware of your stress in all aspects of your life and how it's impacting your body, how you function, your health, and your relationships. And we don't move off that topic when we start a program until people really get a handle on it. So when people take an assessment like mine or others, they're really becoming self-aware. And why do we need to do that? We do that because it's called the adaptation level principle. It means that we adapt to higher and higher levels of stress, the new normal. So everybody's now got levels of stress and they don't attend to it. It's like I have a little ringing in my ears, but I don't attend to that ringing now. Unless somebody says, hey, Jim, do you have ringing in the ears? I say, yeah, I do. Thanks for telling me that. Now I hear it because the mind has tuned it out. Well, when we raise our levels of stress, that becomes a real challenge. And one of the biggest problems is people not attending to that. So the first thing is to identify your stress. And then there are other factors that we need to do and learn about how to take breaks, I call getting away. One strategy we teach people is sometimes you need to get away. In other words, let's say you have an emotional situation with an employee or a colleague or your spouse, and it's really heated. Well, we teach people to stop. I need to just go away for a while. I need to get out of this because it's just escalating. So we teach people to stop the behavior and move on. And that's hard to do because the adrenaline's going and maybe you're into a big debate, a fight. So we teach people how to get away. Or you're under stress and it's not like a fight, but you're just too much pressure. Mm-hmm. Now's the time for a walk. Now go to the bathroom and sit down if you can't go anywhere else and just sit there. relax, bring it down. Sometimes you have to do that.
And can I just
Or,
jump in too? Sorry, because I think it's a really important point I want to bring here, and I'm sure you can maybe speak to it, is the inherent need and value for us to be self-aware, right?
mhm,
And to really catch yourself in the moment. And sometimes, it's I guess being self-aware, but being able to act on that awareness, right? Because sometimes we're
right?
not self-aware of the impact we're having, and the aggressive tone or this escalated energy. That you're absolutely right. We just need to leave the room and say, you know what? Let's just take a 5-minute break, and that could just do wonders, right?
Absolutely. And it sounds so simple.
I know.
And I had a client years ago who had a very heavy, very challenging job, and she would come home and immediately get into work routine and start doing dinner, and it was just she was stressed out. So what we did was we said, look, at the moment you get home, you put a sign up on the bathroom, and he says, I'm going in to take a bath. And she decided that she put the family aside. She says, you guys are just going to wait. I need a half an hour. And she'd go take a bath. And that allowed her to come down. And then when she came out, she was a new person. So whether that's at work or at home, we need those strategies that we build into our mental psyche so that when we become aware that now this is escalating, time to stop. But it's changing human behavior is not easy. And as a psychologist, I can tell you it is really hard.
Right.
In fact, I think psychologists, coaches, counselors, their job is to sell a person on a changing a way of behaving and thinking. And that's not easy. So that's why we need as many programs like what you're doing, Lisa, and what I'm doing to help people at all levels, whether they're employees or not, to live a better life. So how do we deal with it? We deal with the behavioral, we deal with the emotional, we deal with the medical, and we deal with nutrition. So how can you build a better stress-free life?
Yeah.
Take care of your nutrition. Take a look at what you're eating, when you're eating. How, and as you well know, Lisa, you're the wellness person here. That's critical.
Oh, it's critical. It's foundational to everything, in our health and our stress mastery, our emotional well-being. Absolutely. And, sometimes what we're saying, there's nothing new. It's maybe not even rocket science by any means, but with stress mastery in particular, with any kind of wellness or shift in our wellness journey or movement in our wellness journey, it requires a renewal, right? A coming back to the basics.
Mhm.
And sometimes it takes doing an SMQ to realize, oh yeah, I forgot I have this tendency, or yes, there's still this stress issue that
Mhm.
I have not effectively dealt with. And so you need to revisit it, right? Come back home again to
Right.
revisit these very essential issues that may need the support of, a program like yours or a program like mine. And we need to continually, to quote Stephen Covey, bless his soul, is to sharpen the saw, right? And continually work
Absolutely.
on ourselves and put ourselves back on top of our to-do list, right? Like I like to say.
Well, as they said in the movie, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Absolutely.
I did a survey of people years ago about parenting,
Mm.
and these were teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
We did a nationwide study of parenting skills, and and everybody said, "Well, they don't know how to parent." And I said, "You know what? They do. They may not do it when they become parents." And so we did a questionnaire with them, and they identified all the things of what a good parent does. They knew it.
Yeah.
We know what we should
No,
do. We know we shouldn't smoke. We know we shouldn't eat too much. That doesn't change. Knowledge does not change performance, only a change in attitude and practice and programs, counseling. That's why it's so important. If it was easy, we wouldn't have any problems in the world.
and
It's not easy.
we're launching an executive wellness leadership program, and then also individual executive wellness coaching sessions that people can learn more about through our website, and that I'll share in just a bit. But it's so critical that I find that we all, I've been mentored by wellness coaches, and I'm a wellness coach myself. But I think any of us, it would behoove us to, and serve us well, to periodically reach out to a wellness coach, especially if, our wellness has just been neglected. And we just need that either accountability or that guidance or that support or mentorship to just get us back on track again, right?
Absolutely. And, It's interesting to see that wellness is becoming so important.
Mhm.
When you realize that the vast majority of our time, people's lives, are spent at work,
Mhm.
it makes perfect sense that that's a place to begin with. Let's call it indoctrination. Let's do a reverse indoctrination. Let's get people on a path. That's why the exercise programs are there, and the weight loss programs, the smoking cessation programs are all there. But they're not. It's still not enough. So
And we need, as I
we
just
need to.
addressed, sorry, I was just going to say, as I addressed in my articles, we need those executives to be leading by example, right? We can't be asking our employees to be moving themselves along on their wellness journey if, as executives and senior leaders, we're not willing to walk the talk and lead by example, right?
Exactly right. And if you can't lead by example, you're setting the bad example. And what's going to happen is people will pick up on that example. They say, well, he does it, I can do it.
Right. I like to say, if an executive gets up, walks around, takes a break every so often, they're, giving what I call visible permission. I like to use that
Mhm.
term, visible permission, right? And so, as executives, if you learn nothing else out of this, think about, are you giving visible permission to your employees to take care of themselves, to master their stress in whatever way they feel they need, right? Yeah.
Correct. And let's not forget that there are simple things that people can do to keep the stress down. One is shut the door, turn off the TV, turn off the digital media that we're addicted to, and it is an addiction that we have. And you've got a program on that.
And
I know you're getting down to the wire here, but I do want to make a point here. That is
absolutely.
that executives and all people should learn one tool to bring stress down, whether it's deep relaxation, meditation, mindfulness, Tai Chi, any one of the programs out there. Learn one technique to bring stress levels down. Second, change one thought pattern that is not good and healthy for you.
Mm,
You know what that is. People will tell you what it is, but you really know that you may be saying things and thinking things that are stressful. So just do one, don't make your life complicated. One thing that you train yourself to do, and then train how you change one thought. After that, you can change another one. You can't do everything all at once. And as Stephen Covey says, start with the end in mind. Imagine yourself when you walk home at the end of come home at the end of the day, that you have a smile on your face and you're happy and you're eager to see your family,
mhm.
as opposed to remembering
Yeah,
where you were at work and why your boss chewed you out or why you have to work the weekend. So those are just some simple things. I
absolutely.
know that they're simple, but they're really hard to implement, but you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. I even like to do and write in a journal every morning, affirmations, and I put it in, as if
Mhm.
I'm already there. So I am a stress-free person. And trust me, I'm not
Mhm.
always a stress-free person, but I figure if I write it down enough and it will manifest itself, right? I
It'd
am
be, it'd be dead if you were stress free.
well, I think it just puts me in that mindset that yes, I'm a stress master professional, and I really need to walk the talk, and I am a stress-free individual.
Right. Well, as I say, make it simple.
Yeah,
It's like baby steps. Uh, you can't change everything overnight.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
you need 30 days minimum to make an impact. So give yourself that 30 days. Uh, Again, if you have the end in mind and you have a mini plan that will get you there.
Mhm.
And when we do our stress mastery programs, that's what we focus on. It's like a funnel. You're getting all this information and you're looking at yourself and you're discovering things you hadn't thought about before, or maybe you did, now you're remembering them. But at the very end of the day, what are you going to change? How are you going to do it?
Mhm.
Prevent people from not letting you do it.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
Yeah. Nicely said, and nice way to end off. So, is there anything else you might like to add that you haven't already shared with our viewers, just to conclude our.
No, just one little thing, which is my motto: don't just manage stress, learn to master it.
Yeah. And I always like how you sign off your emails. You say, make it a stress-free day. Is something like that? Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
little things.
Good for you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
And well, you know what? Thank you, James. I really appreciate it. And so to our viewers, as we wrap up our episode of our Executive Wellness at Work interview series. Again, I want to thank you, Dr. Petersen, for sharing your insights and expertise with us today. And to connect with Dr. Petersen and learn more about his Stress Mastery programs, be sure to visit stressmaster.com. I believe that's correct. Yes.
That is correct.
And you can certainly reach out.
And you can email me at just jim@stressmaster.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions and tell you more about our program.
Yeah. So is it Jim or J. Petersen at stressmaster.com?
Either one works, but it's easier to say Jim. But you can do J. Petersen. You can say Frank at stressmaster.com, and I will get it.
Okay, good. So thank you so much again, James. So to our viewers, thank you so much for watching and supporting our series. And if you're an executive or maybe a corporate leader, I invite you to visit our website at workplacewellnesscoe.com to learn more about our executive wellness coaching program and our soon-to-be launched Executive Wellness Leadership Program that we are piloting in January of 2020. Or certainly reach out to me at info@workplacewellnesscoe.com to receive our program video and schedule a consult with me to learn more about our programs. Also, if you found this episode to be informative and illuminating, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Workplace Wellness Center of Excellence, to receive notifications of future episodes. And so, my friends, until we meet again, I wish you many stress-free or close to stress-free days and much health and happiness. Be well and bye for now. Thanks again, Jim.
Thank you.